Dun, da, 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 da. Microphone's turned on. Woo! Calling to order the meeting of the Buncombe County Board of Elections for Tuesday, October 24th, 2023. Great to see a full house again, everybody. Thank you all for being here. If you have not already, I hope you'll sign the guest book before you leave. It's our official record of attendance, and we want it complete and accurate. Mr. Whitney, do we have anyone tuned in online? All righty. Thank you, virtual participants. I know that our board member, Glenn Schultz, is participating virtually today, just getting over COVID. We'll see him back in the office here next week, but he's virtual today. So, big agenda today. We start off with a review of the minutes of last week's meeting on October 17th. Colleagues, did everybody have a chance to take a look at the minutes? All right. I move that we approve the minutes of the meeting of October 17th, 2023. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you. The motion carries 5-0. Next up is office updates. Director Duncan.
Okay. I was like, he's gone already. Okay, so office updates. We have a few of them, and I am excited to open it up by announcing that Ryan Oliver joined us yesterday. He is our new warehouse manager. He's back there. He comes to us from Jackson County. He's had 6 years of elections experience. He has a master's degree in public affairs, and Jackson County had express vote for early voting, so we have somebody with lots of experience in that area to help us get off the ground successfully. He, being a smaller county, has done everything, even delivering all of the equipment, so setup, LNA testing. He's going to be a great addition to the team. So please welcome Ryan.
Welcome, Mr. Oliver. Thank you for joining us.
He's been on the job 1 day and he's still here. Good start. Okay, early voting is going well. So we've had 74 voters. We have implemented the new photo ID as well as Express Vote. We're getting good feedback on Express Vote and no issues with the photo ID so far. So that's going well. We've also completed all of the training for in-person voting. So early voting and election day training is complete. That was Morgan's first time doing both of those, and she did a great job. So that is complete for this election. October 31st, 5 p.m. That's the last day to request absentee ballots for this election. We also had, over the past month, we've been collecting food for Amana Food Bank, and that we just completed. So we contributed to collecting over 2,000 pounds of food for that project.
Oh, very good.
So we are happy that we were able to contribute to that. Those are all of the office updates, and before we get started, Jake talked about having a big agenda today, and we do have a big agenda today. And I just wanted to say, if it starts to get overwhelming, we're doing a great job about getting ahead of these things. We have plenty of time. So if it starts to feel like, oh gosh, we've got too much going on today, things can be moved forward to other meetings. So don't feel pressured. We have plenty of time to talk about things. That's all.
Okay, I do have one element on on office update. AK sent an email around to the board late yesterday afternoon with a link to a page that has information about the new legislative maps. And I just wanted to commend staff on that tool. If anybody's interested, you just go to our website, you find the article about the new legislative maps, and there's a link in there. If you hit it, it will take you to a map. And when you are on that page, there's an icon on the left-hand side over in the margin that is an icon for layers. If you hit that icon, you will be able to display the current maps, the current legislative maps, the proposed legislative maps, you'll be able to display the precinct boundaries within each of those districts. And you can toggle back and forth. Actually, you can overlay proposed over the current if you would like. And the reason I mention this is that there are members of the community who are wondering, how does this affect me? And you can show them exactly how it affects them. You are currently in State Legislative District 115. It looks like you would be in 114 under the new model. This was, I think, an excellent facility, and very impressed with the work that was done in a very short period of time to get it up. And I only wish that the state had the sort of resources that we have here in Buncombe County, because this could have been done for the entire state in Raleigh. But they're short. I mean, they don't have the resources. I'm very grateful for the resources we have here, because it helps our community be as fully informed as we can make them. And again, thank you to anyone and everyone who was involved in that. I recommend everybody take a look at that. It's a pretty cool facility. Anyway, that was my addendum on office updates.
Thank you, Jake. And I don't want to take too much credit for that. That is the county put that together. So the county GIS department, and it's on the county's website that has that article with the tool. And you're right, they turned that around really quickly.
Yeah. It was clearly a collaborative effort that is high quality. Anyway, next on the agenda is absentee ballot review, and I believe it's time for Mr. Tate. He's back.
That's right. Well, I know you guys have a lot to do today, but we'll keep it fairly short. Our first exception affidavit must be reviewed by the board. What I will do is I will allow you, the board members, to take a look at it. We do recommend that it pass, that it seems to follow all the guidelines that the state dictate. And so when you do that, I will go in to our system, transfer it over into an accepted, and then we will go ahead and process the other ballots. We will include it in the ballots that we will process as normal, and then open them. Well, the board will review, again sign, and then open face down, and alternating patterns with the ballot and precinct.
Alrighty.
So I will go ahead and pass this to you.
Thank you.
You can take the yellow slip out. That's the affidavit. If you'd like to pass it to all the board members, or I'll help you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. And then we'll just have you sign, Mr. Chairman.
Jake, do you mind if I narrate again?
Please.
I'm going to initiate my narrating once again. So what is happening now is that we received an absentee ballot that doesn't have a photocopy of the photo ID with it. Instead, it has the affidavit form. So the board is reviewing that affidavit to make sure that it meets all the requirements to be able to be an accepted ballot. So staff has reviewed it, and we say, yes, it looks good, but now the board reviews it. And they can look at the memo, or the form, of course, and then we have the numbered memo as guidance to help if there's any questions.
One other ballot, it was cured in the time that it was sent and received back and before the board meeting. That's what this is. It was merely unsigned, but then we contacted the voter. They submitted the signature line for it, so it's good to go. So, and then I'll take that one. And in fact, while I'm doing the change on this, I will let the board review these, or go ahead and be processing them while I do that, and then we can print the report and then scan the ballots.
Thank you.
Do we need a separate resolution to approve the exception form?
Once you sign that one.
I would think not.
Well, I shouldn't think what the statute says.
I'm thinking of how the board reviews absentee by mail ballots, how we've done it historically. And we discuss whether or not a particular ballot is acceptable or unacceptable for whatever reasons. But we tend not to, at the end of the proceedings, we'll make a resolution to approve X number of ballots. But I don't recall singling one out in the past.
I'm sorry I don't have this off the top of my head, but I'm just, what's rattling around in there in all that empty space is that that to reject a conditional ballot, to reject this and send it to a conditional ballot requires an unanimity, I think.
That's
To be unanimous.
right.
So, and that's different from any exception we might take to an absentee ballot itself.
Correct. Usually it's just a majority
It's a
vote.
majority, so that's why I'm thinking
Okay.
maybe we have
Thank
to
you.
break that out and pass on it just simply because it's a different regime.
My only addition to that would be because of the way it's been intaken in the seams. So since it has to sit in its own queue aside from a normal ballot that's been accepted, it may fall in a different area. So we might, I see your point.
So it's
Oh,
lit-
no,
it's-
so do I. Just the way the ones that need to be cured.
Well, it's not necessarily cured. It's
Right,
it's
no, but they're segregated as well from acceptance. And once the cure is affected, then you can move them into acceptance.
Well, cures, they're already in accepted status, correct?
No. What, a cure?
Well, no, this is
Wait,
good. I mean,
cured or pending cure?
yeah.
So, and this is great, like, we can just have discussion about what's
Glad
happening,
we're
it's
having
fine, yes. So the ballots that are under the old process, the board, you present them to the board in the approval status that you are recommending, correct? So in Seams, you have marked that as approved unless they say, nope, don't approve it, is that correct?
And that's,
Like that, let's take that cured one.
The cured one goes into Seams as accepted cured, but it shows up on the accepted report with all the other accepted ones.
Yes.
Okay.
The photo ID ones are different.
yes.
So the photo ID affidavit ones come to you in a true pending status. And so, to me, it makes sense to have a separate motion for those, that
Okay.
we have to pause, we have to go to Seams, we have to change that
And
status
that's what we're
according
about to
to
do.
what the board, yep. And then that would help us, I think, keep track in the minutes as well. Then we update and it's gonna be easy for these meetings since there's so few. But when we get big, we might want to do those first, have that transition, get the sheets correct. It's going to slow down our meetings, but it will be clear, I think, if we make that motion each time,
Well, if
and
we
it satisfies the requirement clearly that the board said, that there wasn't a unanimous decision to not approve something. If there ever is that, we want that to be clear as well.
Right.
And it may
So
not
if we
slow-
had that as a
Yeah.
something we did every meeting, then it would just be a
Okay,
good
yeah.
Because
step
it may
in our
not slow it down
process.
that much, because for example, that's been reviewed, but while you're looking at the regular ballots, I'll be doing that change in Seams, and then it just gets,
Oh, understood, but the board's still going to have to review all these things,
They will.
and someone's got to make a motion, and we'll do it. But, Mr. Aceto, thank you.
Yeah, and Mr. Quinn, just
That makes
one
sense.
more thing on that subject. Just some feedback. What do you think is I think I just heard this, but what do you think is the right place to procedurally put that as far as the audience for our meeting and being able to follow along with what we're doing?
I think it should be the first thing.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, just the way we're doing it now. Mary Ann Brady?
The question I have is, if we do get larger, can these be done also in a batch?
if
like all of the
Yeah,
photo
all of
ID
the photo
exceptions
ID
together. Absolutely.
Exception forms,
That
and
just
we go
makes
through
sense.
those and
'Cause
then
that
approve
goes-
them in a batch.
Absolutely, because that goes to his point. You have to be unanimous
Right.
to reject it.
Right.
And the case of that ever happening will be far less than this not passing.
Right.
So,
Good.
all right, if you'll sign
And
that
so,
one.
yeah, people will know that, okay, this is not, we're, we're on a different page here than when we start looking at the absentee ballot itself.
Exactly.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I mean, I will sign this one, but we were talking about a resolution. There needs to be something that we can rely on every meeting to document our decision-making on this.
I think a motion.
A motion would be sufficient. And the motion is to move the ballot from pending to accepted. Okay?
And it's the affidavit
Oh.
review pending is the technical.
Okay, affidavit, okay, and let's use the technical terminology to get it right. AK,
I have a clarifying question.
please.
So if you're
You'll
moving
sign
them
that
from
and
pending
that.
to accepted, is that then gonna be included in the number that you say at the end that you move to approve? Or is that already approved in its own separate category?
They're going to appear on the approved list. So will you put these ballots into the approved stack?
That's what
So
I'm-
we're just
that's what I'm going
moving
to do.
to move it to that list, and at the end, you'll move to, let's say these all are good.
Right, at
Go for
the,
five,
at the
12,
very
10.
end, right.
Does that make sense to everybody? Because it will get
Approved.
confusing when we have a whole bunch if we don't move, if we're not moving in the board meeting physically the same way that the sheets are.
One more question. Does one motion count for all of the subject ballots, or are we going to need to vote on each? Have a motion and a vote on each individual?
I don't
one?
think you have to do individual, but it would be really helpful to say the number.
Right, I like the batch idea.
And you're going to identify the batch in your resolution.
Right, and how many ballots are in that batch?
Would you identify them by number or just 7 ballots?
By the number of ballots?
I mean, the number on the ballot?
No, the number of ballots.
The number of ballots.
That were reviewed at the meeting on October 24th, 2023. Because that narrows it down to a specific set that's been recorded.
Do you have a report? Can you print an affidavit pending report?
Yes, that's more or less what that is.
Did you create
I
that?
created that. It comes from just a text file, but I can create one.
Okay. And remind me again, on the regular absentee ballots, we have a report.
Mhm.
So we just do a counterpart.
It's just an update of the regular absentee
'Cause
report.
what my mind is thinking is you could just refer to the report in your motion. The 7 ballots on the report presented.
All right.
This is the report that he.
This is what Justin has developed to enable us to document our decision
See, it would be a badge.
on the ballots in question. In this case, there's only one ballot in question, and you see it listed there.
Okay, and then specifically, what do we need to find in terms of the facts? What are we saying that we approve the exception, we find that there is an exception, and it's covered by the statute, or what are we doing?
The voter claimed a reasonable impediment, and we
Fill out
are,
the form properly.
accepting their claim
As
of
being
reasonable
compliant with the
impediment.
statute.
Right.
Which, of course, we're going to start mentioning by statute number, because we like to do that now, don't we? Because the state board likes to do that.
I think you would also go further to say that you are, because what you're actually looking for on these forms, that what you would be moving on, were you to reject it, is that they're false, that it's a false claim.
Or improperly filled out.
Yeah, so in which case, so I'm looking at numbered memo 2020. 2020-25.
And looking at the number memo, would you like to recommend a specific verbiage language for this resolution, since we're going to be doing it a whole lot in the future, and we'd love to get it right the first time?
That's a good idea. Page 8, review of photo ID exception forms.
What was the number of the memo?
2020-25.
So we will refer to the memo, and we will refer to the statute in the resolution itself, in addition to picking the language out of the memo.
Would you like me to read this
Yeah,
paragraph?
Please.
So review of photo ID exception forms. The board must also individually review all completed photo ID exception forms where staff has indicated that available information may lead the board to conclude that the form is false. When staff has given this indication to the board, or if a board member raises a question as to the falsity of the form after staff review, the voter must be given notice and an opportunity to be heard on the information that will be considered by the board, unless one or more of the members disagree that there are grounds to believe the affidavit is false, in which there is case no need to notify the voter, since a finding of falsity on the form must be unanimous.
So in a nutshell, our resolution is that we individually examined the affidavit. The board individually examined the affidavit, and that the board concluded that there was no grounds for it to be to determine that it was false.
That is what I think.
What I just said. Hope somebody remembered that.
I'm trying.
It disappears in about 15 seconds, so you just never to be seen again. No, that's correct.
And this is talking about staff only presenting the ones that we think might be false, but this board has always wanted to see every single absentee ballot, so we're presenting every single one. Of course, if we thought there was one that, hey, you all should look at this one.
Well, sure. And in this case, this sounds like it's a non-delegable duty, because we have to individually.
Yeah, yes. You could delegate the review to us.
Yeah, there's no reason you couldn't recommend something.
Yeah, well, that occurs anyway.
We just have, I'm just reading from
Well,
that
we
we
could-
have to have actually put our eyes on it.
If staff thought it was false.
Yeah.
Definitely. But
Right.
That's right, because
we're
we're
doing,
voting on falsity. We're not voting on, we're not voting on truth. We're voting on,
Correct, correct.
we're voting on
They're-
lies. Are there any lies?
They don't seem to be as interested in documentation on the ones that we are approving as on the ones we would be rejecting.
Other than that, we saw
Stands
it.
for reason.
but we're going above and beyond, showing
got
you
some
all
language?
of them.
What I wrote was, the board individually examined the affidavit, and the board determined there was no grounds thought it was false. That may or may not be exactly what you said, but it's kind of what you said. This is something I missed that you.
In accordance with NCAC so-and-so and general statutes so-and-so.
We're lucky to have one lawyer on the panel.
Well, being obsessive compulsive helps. And I'm off
With
the
what?
meds, so you'll get more of this.
Number 2020-25.
Right.
And do we know?
2025 is going to reference statutes in its footnotes.
Yeah, it references another numbered memo, 2023-3.
We don't get too circular around here.
Okay, so why do we do that? I mean, it's because anybody wants to follow along what we did can read it for themselves.
And what I'm expecting is when we convene next Tuesday, we're going to have boilerplate that we use on these motions going forward. It'll be
Sure,
there will be
it'll-
a standard that's
And it'll
set
tie to
that
the
we
report.
follow.
Yeah, good.
In the meantime, we've already approved this one, so
No, we didn't vote.
we did not vote?
Nope.
No, we need you to help us vote.
Wow. So everyone's had an opportunity to look at it? Everyone have an opportunity to look at Mr. Tate's proposed form of documentation on this? I'm sorry, Mr. Schultz, you haven't had the opportunity to look at this.
He's supposed to. You might want to send it to him.
Yeah, he's supposed to.
Well, we can't send this to him, or,
You can't scan it and.
He
I would
doesn't.
rather not. I would rather not send any voting materials outside of this
Oh,
space.
good plan.
Yeah, that one's got driver's license number on it, so we have to be.
There's that too.
Yeah, so we have to be careful.
Anyway, everyone's had an opportunity to review the photo ID exception form for absentee voting, and the staff is recommending that this be approved by the board. All those in favor of approving the exception form, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you. The motion carries 4-0. If I can get that form,
Yeah.
I'm going to do whatever Mr. Tate wants me to do with that.
Just sign.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And then again, we will begin the process like normal for absentee ballot review. Since that is the affidavit for this one, I'm going to let you two go through this precinct. Remember to check, sign, and date. And then the same for you.
Is this all
Sign.
one precinct?
No, two different precincts, so alternating, if you please. And
Yes,
again,
Mr. Black.
this was the one that was cured, the signature was missing, and that the voter did record.
The individual was unable
Let you begin
to
that, and
get a
then I will-
photocopy of their driver's license, and so the individual
Slice.
provided their North Carolina driver's license number per the requirement.
No idea how incredibly important it is. First time you slice a ballot, you're going to be just absolutely eat up with chagrin. Because then they got it. Okay. Numbers match up.
This is okay.
Oh, that's right. They'll have to make that up. Yeah.
Okay, then everything looks. Nobody signed. Okay. Anything else we need to look at?
Which one?
Today's the 24th. Right?
Yep. And what did we do? I can't remember.
I think we
We
just.
separate them, right?
we
Okay,
separate
that's right.
them.
We got a pile of down and a pile of stuff.
Might just be blind
Okay.
as a bat.
All right, now you want to look at this
I
one.
said, I might just be bad, blind as a bat.
What are you trying
I'm
to
looking for, to change it.
The reason I'm doing this
go to the top? They just accept it.
So just go with that. Okay.
that just gets tiny and little out of it.
I didn't know if I was missing an affidavit accepted. Oh.
That's right. Couldn't see what this thing is. But go ahead. Let's check our ballot. Let's match our numbers. And tell me if you like this. Bunch of daggone Italians. Look at this. Yeah, we should have.
So, let's see what they do.
So the thing I sent you all, those instructions from the St. Elmo, Colorado, in Italians. I thought that was so cool. They did it Swedish and Italian. Those are reminders from Swedes and Italians.
What here? Or
But they all got to that city.
How was it?
that way?
Expired when we started checking your expiration.
Go stop.
I'm thinking maybe it doesn't let you change it. You have to run that thing.
It just didn't get, so in other words, this was sent to them?
Right. Well, I think they called them up. I don't know how they got hold of it. I understood.
All right.
Let's see.
And now we have a signature.
And we have a name that matches the new Lolly, right?
Yes.
We'll put you in charge of everything.
You just want me to go through. I don't have this one.
Well, you did a really good job of that. You get at assets and everything. Oh. I'm exhausted.
Wait till there are 1,000 of them.
Look at that grin over there. Sadistic grin.
That's right, that's. Green to solid.
All right, let's get out of this. Where am I out here? There we go. Okay.
Door is closed.
I see them there dancing.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Hold on. There we go. Okay. Okay. I'm assuming we'll save.
So show me your touch on this.
And let's see if that did it.
It's not as easy as it looks.
So it's saying you can't just
To keep from this toe.
Yeah, let's try and see if it gets it.
Massacre. That's good.
Yeah.
It's just like on it and smack it. It's really embarrassing.
Yeah, we'll have to scan. Yeah.
So they are working on creating the new list that has the affidavit one in it.
Good.
If you would like, I could collect the ballots and have Bria scan those.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Move things along.
Sign on the small screen. Let's see, how many do we have total? Yeah, it does. 5. We got it. Okay. Different precincts, remember? Okay, let's send that to the printer. Which one? Where did it go?
Did that include the affidavit one?
Yes.
Can't remember. Yeah, I know, this just was so small.
Reception.
There you go. Let's do. Let's do 3 copies.
This time.
I heard that.
Hold on, I hadn't done it yet. I just picked it. Let's do 3 copies.
That's the first time I've heard it.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Oh, shit, it's the first time I've heard it.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't hear it last week.
All right,
Yeah.
let's go see if it did
Are we
it.
breaking down?
The door's open, just kidding.
Yeah.
What's that?
They just sent it to the
Oh, it
printer.
will be on mine. That's a good point. Be right back.
So,
It's gonna be on my badge.
what do you have for your copy ballot communication resolution?
I have resolutions drafted for all of them. There's a bonus in that one, not
Did it print?
Would you mind just distributing that now so people can like
Damn it.
read
I'll go do it again.
on their phones?
Okay. Okay.
Sorry. Twiddling continues.
Almost there.
We only have 5 on
I think tomorrow is just drawings to a whole.
that. This is for Mr. Teal. Yeah. Of course.
There we go.
You just testing them?
Yeah, that's it. I didn't make myself a copy.
All right. Is it coming?
I'm running on 3-cylinder.
Figures, don't it?
Plenty of time. We only have plenty of time.
These are gonna get shredded.
Shredder's right there if you want to.
Don't say anything
Damn it,
bad
it's
about
still
the
doing it
copier
front to
right
back.
now, Justin.
I changed it. I know I did. Well, I got an idea.
Okay, if there's something special about this thing.
I got a way to do it.
All right, do you like these?
No, shred those.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
I could be mine too. It could be a whole lot. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna look at maps. Hey, I get to do show and tell, man, they're downtown. This is the mapping facility that's on our website now. This is, and if you go to this page, there's a link to this page on a little article that's on the website. But it's this icon right here, that's the layers icon. And when you click on that, it gives you the ability to display, for instance, this right now is the proposed 11th district, congressional district, under the second bill that was offered. And so all of Buncombe is in there. I showed you the other proposal for Buncombe County's congressional districts. You would see most of it is in the 11th, and then this little part down here and then up to Black Mountain would be in the 14th district. But this tool will do that. And it shows you which precincts are in which districts. So if anybody wants to know the impact on them, it's right here. All the information, if you know what precinct you're in, you can figure out which district you're going to be in. That's assuming that all of these are adopted as is, and that might not happen, but I think it probably will. Mr. Sullivan, you ever?
I've tried it, it works well.
Yeah. Good tool. It's the layers icon right there. That is the key to success. I just love maps and data, don't mind me. It's, as soon as those maps came out last week, I just wanted to know, okay, what's the impact here?
We'll sign that last page.
And that gives us.
I'm assuming we didn't get a list because there's so many.
This is.
Just
Okay, so what we're gonna do in the future
Right.
let's make sure that we start off with the list. Because like we just reviewed them, and as Mary had noted, the first thing on the checklist is put a check mark on the thing. So, the cool thing about this election is it's so small scale that we can work out the choreography going forward, which is going to be handy when things are so much easier.
Just curious.
Hey, can we please do it right?
Well, at least by the list.
So you want them all signed? Let's check off your names. I feel a whole lot better if I see those names. Envelopes will suffice. Oh, just slap them on down. Well, there's only 5 of them. We can figure it out. Yep. 5.1, 67, 7.
You can just lay them down there.
Yeah. That's the best one.
Right.
So next page. Yep, that is the individual.
And that created
That was the first one.
before. I was here before. Just like, okay.
Second one. That's the first name. And that's the last one. Great. You want us to sign on the back?
It's a world of our whole world of unintended consequences.
Yes, it is.
I think either one of us put a date on this one.
Yeah, no, it's just,
Read that thing. and you'll-
remember, you two, we're going to switch places there. I was going to get the kicks.
I put in the budget shock.
Soon come to know.
The little, like, they used to put that on your seats at movie theaters. Yeah. It's suspense movies. Yeah, they would do that. The Tingler. Oh, misspent youth.
We're almost there.
Okay. You can have that.
Yeah, because they made a motion on it, I have to.
Okay.
We can fix some triplicate. 23, 24. You fix that for me. Turn over.
23 sounds better.
Wasn't that right?
23. I was just thinking 23 instead of 24.
Barely this side of it's dementia.
They're having too much fun down there.
That'll change when we have more.
Well,
I've seen
I
the show before.
I needed that bucket of cold water in the face.
I mean, I've only watched it from over there, but it's just as tedious from over there.
Thank you for
I
this.
think it's worse. On the
Bella,
outside.
you
You
check
can't see it.
Exactly.
You're not doing
Exactly.
anything.
No, I'm glad that Mr. Black asked the question, because I wanted to volunteer, but I didn't know if I should. All right, colleagues, thank you for your review. I would like to make a motion to approve the 5 absentee ballots that we just reviewed. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Is there any more we need to do on absentee ballot review?
Yes. Polybags.
Good. It's in there.
Scan 5 ballots. Yep.
Your predecessor, each inside the bag, take out, count, back. You wouldn't hurt my feelings. She was always like one step ahead, always just physically doing diligence. I really appreciated that about her. When she didn't mind the years to do it. But, well, as far as I was concerned, I was got
Start with a 0.
There you go.
That is great.
Move the divider in here.
Okay.
Yeah, Linda would open the bag and count it up.
All right, thank you much.
Wait, you got me? Okay, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if you'll seal those for me.
In there.
Oh.
There's it.
Oh,
I don't want to unseal it.
Oh, definitely not.
there you go.
We would need a whole new poly bag.
He does that thing, so you could reach it until he does that. That's right, then it's like,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Tate. All righty. That is absentee ballots for tonight. Next on the agenda is item 4, Uwakava ballot duplication resolution. Director Duncan.
Justin? Do you have the resolution?
Yes.
Would you like me to present them? Yes. Okay, so at the last meeting, we discussed several different resolutions that the staff was proposing that the board review. And this first one here is the resolution for the Uwakava ballot duplication outside of board meetings. When I was reviewing this resolution, I've worked with the absentee team as well as Kurt Euler on drafting these. When I was reviewing what statutes to reference and what numbered memos to reference, in the numbered memo 2020-25, it reminded me that there are other, way less common, but other times when ballot duplication needs to happen outside of a board meeting. So if like at a in-person voting, at early voting or on election day, if for some reason a ballot won't scan and what is supposed to happen is the poll workers spoil the ballot and reissue it so that it scans correctly. But sometimes that doesn't happen. The poll worker will put it in the emergency bin and then that has to be duplicated later. So because the numbered memo references that with what to do, we thought we would include it in this memo, in this resolution, so that it was nice and neat. So this references the applicable laws at the beginning, And then the references the numbered memo of how we actually complete those. And if you'd like to see that numbered memo, did you print them out, or would you? It's also in your packet. And
Great.
it goes by step how that duplication process happens, and under web review. So we added that other type of duplication to this. So that's different from what we presented last week.
Yeah, good. It just makes it comprehensive.
Yeah, and it makes it very neat with that numbered memo. So they all fall in line together.
All right, anyone have any questions for staff before any motion is made?
I guess, yes, Director Duncan, I'm just checking, so this other unscannable ballots, you gave us an example of that. Is there any room for some wishy-washiness in there regarding how the staff manages this? You still have your evenly distributed Democrats, Republicans, et cetera, on your staff. Is there any other place that this could go bad? I guess.
like where is risk in
what
it?
could go wrong? Anything?
So we'd only be doing it for ones that are unscannable, that we can't, all the ballots have to be scanned in order for auditing to happen.
Mhm.
So it would be only for ballots that the 950 will not scan.
And this does state it's just for preparatory step for the board meetings.
That's
Right,
correct.
so we're still aware, we're made aware of all of that.
Right.
Yes, yep, and, if there's discrepancies and you remember them every canvas time, those all get presented to you.
Right.
Devin and Bria present that.
Mr. Quinn.
Mr. Aceto.
So this resolution is supposed to apply, it applies by statute and memo only to unscannable ballots, right?
Yep, the unscannable ballots, which UACAVA falls under because they come
Because
in
it's
as
a-
email. Yep, so we have to
Okay.
duplicate those to make
Then-
them scannable.
Let me suggest just a slight change to this. For just simply to clarify that we're referring to only to unscannable ballots, as you said, or other unscannable ballots, which is, pretty good. Pretty good way to make that distinction. But if you would somewhere in the introduction of the resolution, or somewhere simply state that this is a resolution that concerns unscannable ballots. The duplication of unscannable ballots by staff.
So in other words,
Sort of.
defining what the UACAVA is
Just
more.
making it clear that we're talking about unscannable ballots.
In the title, I have a resolution allowing bipartisan team of elections officials to duplicate.
Or unscannable ballots.
Is that,
Okay, that's good.
okay,
I just don't read everything that
That's
you
okay.
write.
that's okay. Anything else?
All right. I move that the board approve resolution number 2023-05, a resolution allowing a bipartisan team of elections officials to duplicate UACAVA ballots or unscannable ballots outside of board meetings. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Mr. Schultz, I believe I heard an aye from you, sir.
Yeah, I got a copy of the resolution from AK before the meeting and had a chance to read it.
Great, thank you. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you, everybody. Director Duncan. Resolution number 2.
Okay, the second resolution is the write-in tally resolution, and it follows very similar format. So it references the statutes that require write-ins and tallying those. And Devin was going to present on tallying so that we could be reminded of that process first, to make sure you have all the information that you need, get any questions that you want answered before deciding whether you would like to pass the resolution or not. And Devin Whitney's going to present that, if I didn't say that already.
All right. Now that I'm wired. What you have before you is a copy of the draft resolution, and then the flowchart looking thing is actually a outline of the write-in process and each step that it goes through that we did with strategy and innovation 1 or 2 years ago. So this was where it says improvement on here. It's just we were looking at places of improvement. This is just merely to kind of show you all everything that's involved with the write-ins. And the resolution that I'm presenting on really only covers the board determines intent box, which is just one small section of this. And it's something that you all are familiar with and have gone through in the past. Or most of you.
Wow.
And the express vote allowed us to just cut off that whole bottom part. So it saved some time.
This is really impressive.
What, the flow chart?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting to put it all together to actually see what all is involved and really how much it is, because it felt like a lot, and then it turns out that it is a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
Just in case, yeah.
Yeah, I can feel.
Yeah.
I'll pass it
It's-
around.
We can pass that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Reading glasses on.
It still works upside down.
Yeah, and kind of just a reminder of where we are. So this is in some elections, write-ins are allowed, and write-ins of any sort are allowed, and so they have to be tallied by humans. And there's all kinds of rules that apply depending on the election type and how many write-ins are made for a particular candidate. And it's a process that has to happen during that canvass period, which we, of course, are tight on time to complete. But then these all get reported with the official results. Only there's rules too for you have to reach a certain threshold to actually be named. Otherwise, it's in a general write-in category.
Five write-ins.
5 write-ins. And so that is a big, intense process. Write-ins are usually a pretty small proportion of the votes, but it takes a lot of time processing them. And then, of course, the tallying, and also because they're write-ins by humans, except for the ones on the express vote, they can be a little difficult to interpret. But there's the numbered memo that we cite there that actually gives great guidance. You've seen it. Maybe Sally hasn't seen it before, but the rest of you have seen that memo before, and it's great at describing how to determine the intent on those. And so the memo describes, of course, the context of the laws that apply. So we have to tally write-ins, how we tally them, and doing how to determine voter intent. And then the resolution is asking that staff do the tallies, that we are authorized to determine voter intent. And in the case that we can't determine voter intent, we bring it to the board.
Right.
Can you explain how the express vote cuts the lower portion off?
Yeah, absolutely. Since we don't have to do the precinct sort anymore. So we'd have to go through and scan all the ballots into precinct when it was a full-size sheet, which means that you have to go through all the write-ins again, and then you have to tally them into their precinct, because on election day, with the old way, they were just tallied into like an administrative precinct for the early voting site. And so it would just be all lumped in there generally. So we'd have to go back out and do it all again.
I see. Okay.
Okay, I can see that the board will be polled if staff cannot determine voter intent. But in addition to that, I would just want the board to receive a report
Okay.
on the results of the tally.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we do that anyway.
Yes.
Good, okay, good.
Is that on this spreadsheet? I mean, on this, whatever, critical path or whatever you call it?
The workflow, process flow,
Yeah.
or whatever, for presenting to the board, or?
that's-
Yeah, that it's going to go on a report.
That,
We're in here for determining voter intent.
yeah, there's the voter intent section. This workflow does not include like presenting. This is just surrounding the collection and tallying of them.
But write-ins are presented on the final
Yes.
canvas and abstract reports.
Okay, fine.
Which we can't create until everything has been audited, so any problems would be presented to you before
Yeah.
those reports got created.
All right, Mr. Whitney, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone have any more questions? I move that the board approve resolution number 2023-06, a resolution allowing election services staff under the supervision of the director to tally write-in votes and determine voter intent for the purpose of such a tally. Any additional discussion on the resolution? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Thank you. The motion carries 5-0. Mr. Whitney. Thank you. Well done. All righty, moving right along. Next up is Director Delegation Resolution.
Okay, so that you received some draft of the resolution. It's this, what AK is handing out right now is the same language, but we updated it to match our resolution. We are improving all the time. So we want all our resolutions to have the same format, but we're handing this out to you so that if you want changes, you can talk about under section 1A, and we all know what you're talking about because the other ones were numbered, not lettered, and so that's why, yeah, the language is not any different. It's just the format.
Alrighty, I will just open this up to discussion. I recall last week, members of the board had different ideas, different questions, and now is the time to put them out there. Sally Stein?
Yes, I don't know if I should address Director Duncan or to the chair, so whichever.
What you got?
I want to ask about a couple of things. One is, so you talked about quality and improving. Where is the language about quality improvement for your director delegation? Is there anything in there that talks about quality improvement or strategic innovation, whatever the terms are that you use? Did I miss that in this? Or?
So I think that we talked a little about this last meeting, about what you wanted to include in the delegations. And the delegations can have things that are outside of the law, which would be, listing that part of my duties is setting a vision for the department and continuing innovation and those kind of things. That's perfectly fine to add into here. I didn't add it because I kept to the GS 163-33 plus things that we had discussed, like the memo, the MOU with the county of following policies.
And is that in the county? Do you have, is there any place in your job description or anywhere where quality improvement and innovation is discussed?
Not that I'm aware of. My job description with the county is up for review right now. So we could add that. I could advocate for adding
I would suggest
that.
it. I think it's a critical piece of what you do, and that I expect as a board member that there is some kind of ongoing quality evaluation management going on. So I would like to see it.
Like a continuous improvement.
Continuous process improvement
Yeah.
is the term of art.
CQI.
So, would you like it added to this delegations?
I don't really care about that. I think it's just wherever it makes sense. I mean, we're basically assuming your job description is written as it should be from the county, right? We don't do that. Is that correct? We don't even see your job description, right? So.
Or do we?
Oh, yeah.
We do see that.
Yeah. There it is.
This was the last one. Or no, this
Yeah,
was-
I think it has changed since then.
Okay. So I don't care exactly where it goes, just that it's, that it's written somewhere. I wouldn't mind it being in our resolution, just because I think it's an expectation that if we talk about something that needs to be changed, that we can trust and count on the fact that it's happening. So I guess I do see it more as a delegation, but I'm game either way.
I think adding it here is fine. I don't see anything. I don't feel any red
You got anything
flags.
else?
Yeah, no, I think what Ms. Stein is suggesting is that we do as thorough a job of documenting the board's expectations of the director as we can.
Okay.
And that's
Mr. Quinn,
Mr. Aceto.
I'll speak to that specifically. I want to make a distinction between what goes in the job description that represents our reasonable expectations and what goes in the delegation, which is really a statutory thing.
Right, and that's what you're seeing here.
Yeah, so, and for that reason, I would consider that the CQI component be made a part of the job description, but not necessarily this delegation resolution, because the statute doesn't address
Fair enough.
that, and that we kind of take a disciplined look at our resolution to make certain that it does cover what's statutory. So, which it really is it's pretty darn close as far as I'm concerned, but I did have a few comments, but whenever you're ready to.
And
some
hearing
broader
that,
comments.
that the director's position description seems to be under review by the county, that will be brought to this board. I'm very surprised I'm only hearing about it now.
So I guess,
Today.
yeah, I guess,
Okay.
Karina, in other words, what's in the resolution, the delegation resolution should find its way into the job description,
That is
but not necessarily
The other
Right.
way
the other way around.
Exactly.
That is an excellent point.
Yeah. That helps.
So, Mr. Acito, please proceed.
Thank you very much. But reviewing this coincides with going through the board member certification exam, which is an open book exam of 75 questions. And it basically requires, to complete it, requires that that the board member go through each question and find the place in the statutes that addresses it, which is I was humbled by just how little, how few questions I can answer. I've got to go through it, but I'm sure when I'm done, I'm going to be a much better board member because I'll have a better, I'll just have a better view of the broad view of the whole process from the statute. And that also coincides with just beginning to get more in touch with what the state board does and how they operate. One thing that they don't put anything in writing on there as far as a resolution or an agenda or anything without a reference to the statute. Right. Even the agenda items all have a statutory reference on them, and so do the resolutions. And my skirt fell off. Terrible. Thank you for fixing my skirt. It was showing my tennis shoes, wasn't it? So, anyway, so I did, as I went through, just as a, here's a, this is gratuitous, but I asked my, I have a program that I access as a member of the Bar Association that I can search for key phrases in statutes and Attorney General opinions and everything else. And I just asked it, okay, do me a search, how many times in the administrative code or the statutes say the County Board of Elections shall. And between the administrative code and the statute, it's about 100 times. Now, I wanted to know how many times it says the chair shall. And he's just way behind us. You know, he's 4 times in the code and 2 times in the statute. So like, he only has to do 6 things.
Yeah, we prefer the chair may.
That was not what I was looking for. I was looking for a stick to beat the chair with. Or beat him with a chair, something like that. So I went through these delegations and came up with what I thought was this reasonable statutory reference. If you want to shortcut some of that, and I came up with a few things that I would ask that you consider adding. And of course, we assume that they would find their way into the job description. One is, speaking of the chair, that there's a separate statute that has to do with what the chair delegates to the director, and this is the chair's discretion. This is something that the chair can do, and that's 163.35D. And I would ask that you consider folding that in here, and probably the one example is administering the oath to the chief judge and the party judges. You know, that's something that's the chair's privilege, and you know, you have to ask him, but I assume he'd want that in there. And also, there is a requirement that our resolution, specifically, this is words out of the statute, shall require adherence to the duties of the Board of Election under 163.33. So in other words, it's a conditional delegation. We need to reflect the fact that we're delegating this, as long as what the director is doing it complies with these statutes. So we're looking for some conditional language, and I think that the county attorney probably ought to help with that. Also, there were a few other things that I think were added to the statute between the time that all this was generated, and primarily they have to do with one is about that 163.33.14. That's giving the director authority to access the ballot boxes, the voting machines, the voting equipment, and the records. That's something that apparently is specifically delegated, and also that I don't know why that the board is responsible and would delegate the responsibility to notify each candidate of the provisions of the anti-littering rules. Be sure you get that. That's a big deal. And in general, the confidentiality of records. That we have some reference to that we're specifically making the director accountable for that, because that's our responsibility. We can delegate it, but we can delegate the duty. We can delegate the discretion. We can't delegate the responsibility. Right. That's ours. But I'd like to see that turn up in both the resolution and in the job description. And finally, this really isn't part, it would be more part of the job description, is simply that as far in terms of information technology and the integrity of the system, that we make some mention of that we're asking the director to that would be specifically part of their responsibility. System integrity as it relates to the information technology that's employed. I think the chair is supposed to be personally. You've got to specifically approve the machines. For some reason, I have to go back and look at which one that was, but it kind of jumped out at me that as far as what machines go out to the precincts, that's up to that the chair has that specifically, and why it's the chair, not the board, I don't know, but that's the way it reads. So, but I would think that that's something that the chair would delegate.
Yes. As it has been done.
Well, that's what we do.
For many. I
mean, it's really what we're doing. We're not introducing anything new here.
No, we are not. But we are documenting it in detail so that should anybody have any questions about the duties that this board has delegated, there's clarity.
And the specific statutory authority for that. You want to go look it up. You can look it up. Finally, Jake, you and Corrine and AK have been doing the agendas. I'm very happy with what you're doing.
Thank you.
I understand you're responsible for that. Might you consider including those statutory references like the state board does when you have an agenda item? Okay. Last shot. We don't have any bylaws. I don't know that any of the county boards do, but I'd be curious to know if they do. We have several things that we do just by tradition. One is that we allow motions without a second. They come from the chair, which saves time. And is it in the open meetings law?
Yeah, we don't need a second. On most of our motions, we don't need a second, and
Okay.
that
Well, question
apparently
whether
is
we
due to
need
the size of
bylaws.
this board.
And the only reason I suggested is that we seem to be getting along really well, right now. And you build a fence while the neighbors are happy and they're still passing pies back and forth. I mean, you don't wait until they're throwing pies at each other. You know?
Amen, because then you can't agree on anything.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a while, and I've gone to a bunch of the state trainings. I have never once heard the term bylaws, and maybe I wasn't paying attention. It's a good question, and I think it's one that we can ask somebody at the state level. That question being, are you aware of any county boards of elections that have adopted bylaws to help govern their activities? And if so, can we get a copy?
Or has the state board done that?
If the state board had, then I
We would
am
know.
very confident that they would be encouraging us to do the same. I'm guessing that they have not, but it's a good question. There's 100 counties, and that's a pretty big number.
Yeah, I just want to throw that rock in the pond. I mean, there may be good reasons not to do it.
So just for clarification, that's about how the meetings are run, how they open,
Right.
how a motion
That's right, the
is
conduct of the
done.
meetings and. Yeah, board policies don't belong in a bylaws. That's just one spot. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have anything further.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Brain, Ms. Stein, did you have any? Ms. Brain?
Yeah, the last one, attend and maintain responsibility for staff attendance at state seminars and workshops. Can that be more specific? Because what workshops, what seminars are approved or allowable? Or is it just open to, let's go to this one, or are there
Yeah.
specifics?
I think if we're breaking, since the job got bigger, twice as, maybe 3 times as big, if we're doing bylaws too.
Forget
If-
bylaws right now, okay?
Okay,
Just let's
so if
find
I'm
out if
thinking-
anyone else has done.
If I'm thinking job descriptions and delegations, I think that the staff attendance, like, we could put something in the job description about making sure that staff is getting training that applies to their job so that they can be good at what they do. What should be in the, why this was part of delegations is that I'm required by law to go to all of the meetings and stay certified as a certified North
But are those
Carolina
meetings
director.
sponsored by the North Carolina?
Yes,
Oh.
there's I think it's an NCAC that lists out the requirements for the director. And then Jake and Steve is going through it right now, have the option to go through the program to be certified board members, and the staff has the option to be certified election administrators.
So those programs are created by the state?
Yes,
Right.
yep,
Okay.
state certification, North Carolina state
Because
certification.
this just seemed state workshops, it's like,
Seemed like random, yeah.
okay, a little vague.
Yes. Okay. Do you want, talking about it that way does make it feel kind of out of place because it's not a delegation. It's a requirement by law. Maybe it just doesn't need to be in there, in the delegations. Because it's not delegated, I have to do it.
Yeah, if you indulge me, we're thinking, Mary Ann, about what these specific statutes say are duties of the board that can be delegated.
And
Yeah,
this is
if you point me to the spot where it says that we're responsible for staff
Yeah.
education. If we are, it needs to be in there. If not, it goes in the
Job description.
job description.
Yep, I completely agree.
Okay.
Mr. Elam, did you have a question?
I'm a little confused. The statutes that Mr. Rosito mentioned, are they going into the job description or are they already
the concepts are there. What Mr. Aceto is recommending, and it makes a lot of sense, is just note the specific passage of the law that is directing that. And so, in this case, it's usually something out of section 163 in the 30s, 163, 33, 34, 35, something like that. And so, having the list, and then in parentheses right next to it, here's where you find it in the law, just makes it that much tighter of a document. People can understand the source of each element, and that the source is here. Not the board isn't making this up. It comes from this.
And it's not the same language between the two documents. I mean, you can find the threads of it. The concepts are there. Yeah. They don't contradict. But they were two different documents written at two different times for two different purposes, and they certainly, obviously, one informed the other. I mean, there's not, it wasn't like there's some job description that just came out of the sky somewhere, but one thing that we're taking the opportunity to do is to try to harmonize that so that when you look at these two documents, you will certainly see the delegation in the job description, and then in the job description you will see those things that ought to be there but aren't part of the board's statutory duty. In other words, the delegation are things that the statute tells us that we as a board shall do. That's those 100 shalls. So we want to be sure that to the extent that we give any of our 100 shalls over to Corinne to execute, that that we've inventoried, we've listed those, we know what they are, and so that's the primary function of the review of the delegation resolution, is that we get the shalls in there. But if you look at at the existing resolution, and if you look at the job description, you'll see that they're in there, just with those, except for those others that I mentioned about littering, and, but that's the whole idea, is that we be certain that we pick those up, and that we get them in the right spot. So I don't know that we need to be spending all night trying to exactly match the job description to the delegating resolution, even to the language in the statute. We need to be faithful to it. Right. But that's what we're doing intentionally, I think, for the first time. It was done instinctively, intuitively before, so it's not like no one ever thought of this. They did think of it, and they did include it. So, we don't have a defective process here. We're doing our continuous improvement thing.
There you go. And so what we're just going to think out loud here. What we hope to see at a future meeting is this resolution updated in the manner that has been discussed here.
Does Glenn have anything input?
Mr. Schultz, we miss having you at the table here, my friend. We look forward to your return. Did you have any questions or comments about this?
Well, just one question, really. I think y'all have really covered all the bases here. I just noticed in Corinne's job description there was a reference to her, for the director, assisting the board in defining, rearranging, discontinuing, so forth, precincts. And in 163-33, subsection 4, there's a reference to the board's duty to establish, define, provide, rearrange, discontinue, and combine election precincts. I'm assuming that's generally a non-delegable duty, or one that a board would not want to delegate. But I'm wondering if there's something that ought to be in the delegation of duties that says something along the lines of what's in her job description, about assisting the board in that process if it ever should come to it. That's really the only point I had.
And something that falls under that is when we transfer precincts. Like in this muni, we have some precincts that only have 30 voters, so we transfer them to another precinct and we present those resolutions to you. You saw that this election, so that is one of the things that fall under that. It's very rare to have any changes to the actual precinct lines.
Yeah, our hands are
Right.
pretty well tied by
That's what I was thinking.
the state. But thank you, Mr. Schultz. Okay, so for next steps, can we see another draft of this? Great.
I think what you're actually asking for is another draft of this and a job description.
The new job description gets completed.
Do you have any input on the job description from the county, or is that all up to them?
I'll be contacting a couple of people tomorrow in the county administration about this subject. The board writes the position description for the position.
Thank you.
And so we will rely on the support organizations in county government to assist us, and we will make the decisions. I will update the board next Tuesday on what I learned tomorrow. Okay, then. Thanks. This is a very interesting topic. It's I think we're going to make some really good progress on this. As long as we get over those speed bumps and other obstacles. So we're going to come back to Director Delegation Resolution at a future meeting. Next on the agenda, Election Night Accounting Journal Orientation. Karen Ray has very patiently stayed here to orient the board on how to properly review and complete the accounting journals on election night. And this is training that I'm eagerly looking forward to, because up to this point, I'm the only board member who's done these things, and I need help. And it's going to make election night wrap-up occur earlier, and the whole process go more
I'm not the only
smoothly.
board member that's done these anymore. Sally and I both done them.
Good, good. And I'm sure that there were no discrepancies
Nope.
when you brought that journal in. This is great. You know, Steve, I think we can take the rest of the meeting off. Everything's in good hands with Ms. Brain and Ms. Stein.
Yeah. We've seen these before.
Now, for those of you who want to remain, please, you are welcome. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. But if you decide it's not as fun and exciting as you would like, I do want everybody to know that our next meeting is Tuesday,
It's okay, Karen.
October 31st
Don't worry, my feelings.
at 5:30 p.m. and costumes are mandatory. Okay, Ms. Ray,
Okay,
thank you.
so since Mr. Aceto would like to know all kinds of statutory and admin code requirements for this, I thought I'd look them up so that you would. So under the North Carolina Administrative Code, Chapter 10 sets forth the requirements for the chief judges and the judges and what they need to do during election day. And so this document is designed to do three things. It's designed to lay out the important steps that the judges have to do, starting right from when they come to pick up the supplies at the warehouse right through to the closing of the polls. And some of those important steps might be steps that are in the administrative code, and some of them might just be best practices that we've determined. It satisfies the chain of custody form that's required in the administrative code. We have to have a chain of custody form for all supplies. And it also serves, by its very name, it is the accounting form that helps us to account for all used and unused ballots. And so if a chief judge picks up a certain number of ballots from the warehouse, at the end of the day, that same number of ballots should still be in the precinct. They just have been used in different ways or not used. So if you'd like to just take a look, it's only 6 pages long, and it actually will go fairly quickly. But page 2 is the form that the chief judge and the staff at elections fill out when the chief judge comes to pick up equipment. And some of the very important equipment, like the keys for the tabulating machine, are noted here, the number of laptops. And once the chief judge has signed on to those laptops get sealed with a tamper-resistant seal, and the number of that seal is recorded here on that page. And then a very important part of chief judge supply pickup is getting the ballots. And so we have a table here where we write out what style of ballot and how many were received. And a chief judge always gets 25 of those express vote cards. Remember, this is election day, not early voting, when they're using the express vote exclusively. And then after we have completed this, the staff signs to say that this is what I have given the chief judge, and we have counted it together. And then the chief judge also signs to say, I have received this. I now have keys, I have laptops, I have ballots, and other important things. So the next page, page 3, is the precinct setup meeting, which for those of you that haven't been a poll worker, the poll workers meet the day before the election, and they actually physically set up the precinct. They put up tables and chairs, laptops, printers, signs on the walls, and things like that. And one of the things that they will do is that the workers will remove those laptop seals and log on to the laptops themselves using secure passwords that we give them. And so they'll place the seals here once they've removed them. And then they will fill out this table to show that they received the envelope from the chief judge with their unique password in, and that they have changed that password to one that only they know. And then they initial to say that they have completed that. And then the laptops are resealed, because this is Monday, it's not election day. So the laptops get resealed with tamper-resistant seals, and we record again the seal number that was placed on them. The next page, this is a little bit of best practices. This is the judge will then review emergency procedures with the workers. They will determine what would be an emergency assembly point if they needed to leave the building. They will also be instructed if they have to relocate to a completely different precinct, it tells them where that is. And then there are a list of very important tasks to be completed. Obviously, if possible, if safety allows, you would want to collect the ballot bin from the DS200. You would want to collect these notebooks that have the authorization to vote signed by the voters. You would want to close and lock the DS200, the tabulating machine. All of these things are subject to safety. We don't know what the particular emergency is, but if it's possible, it tells them here who would do each job. And the chief judge is simply reviewing that with the workers. So on page 5, it is election day steps before 6:30, so this is before the polls have opened. And the first thing that the two judges, the chief judge and their opposite number, so their opposite party number, there is a seal that's placed on the tabulating machine when it leaves our warehouse. And that seal has a number on it. And when the chief judge and that party judge come in on election day morning, they shall verify that that seal is still there and it has not been tampered with. As in bright red letters, letters it says the seal has not been broken. They will also, they will turn on the DS200 now, so polls haven't officially opened, but this is the beginning of the process. They'll turn it on and out will print what we call a zero tape. And that tape shows that no votes have been cast for any particular race, for any race. Also, the screen on the DS200 will display the public count, which is the number of ballots that it has received. And that number, obviously, at 6 o'clock in the morning should be 0. So the two judges will check that zero tape. They will also check the public count. They'll then open up the DS200 and pull out the bin where the ballots collect. And they will open the flaps and they will look inside to make sure that it's completely empty, that there's no ballots have been cast at all. And then the last thing that they'll do is look at those security seals that were placed on the laptops and make sure that they haven't been tampered with. So there's actually 6 very deliberate steps here that are outlined, and the judges have to go through all of this, and they have to sign here. I have independently verified these steps, and I confirm that everything was executed correctly, and then they sign. So, during the day, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 4 o'clock, they're collecting certain numbers. This is all so that we can audit at the end of the evening, and we want to make sure throughout the day that we've got accurate numbers of how many ATVs, that's an authorization to vote document, how many ballots have gone inside the DS200, how many ballots have been spoiled, how many have been voted provisionally, and if there were any challenged ballots, that number's usually a 0. And then we get to the very last page, page 6. And this is our final 7:30 p.m. We're going to close the polls. We're going to record the last number of the ATVs. So that's, once again, that's the authorization to vote documents and the number on the DS200 tabulating machine. Those 2 numbers should be exactly the same, because you should not have been able to get a ballot that was tabulated unless you signed an authorization to vote document. So those 2 numbers should be exactly equal. If they're not, it asks the chief judge to research that and find out if they can see what's happened. And if they know why it's happened, for example, let's say a voter ripped up their ballot and it can't then be put into the tabulating machine, it's going to be held in a bag in a separate place, they would fill out an incident report and they would explain here, this is why those 2 numbers don't balance. And then line by line, they will go through and fill out this reconciliation sheet. And the aim of this is that at the end, the total number of ballots that they brought into the precinct in the morning is the same number as they have at the end of the day. And Chairman Quinn, did you want to do that exercise, or would you like to do a little?
Director Duncan wants to do that exercise. How do you mean? I mean, you've got...
I was going to give you some numbers and have everybody go through that exercise. Of
Sure.
balancing.
Yeah, that makes it...
Okay. So you will need a pen
easier
and
to
possibly a
understand.
calculator, depending on how.
I will note right now that the number of express vote ballots of 25, I think we've been doing a better than expected job of marketing express vote. I won't be surprised if people go to their polling place on election day and request using express vote. 25 might not be sufficient, just...
Perhaps for the municipal election.
I'm very curious. I'm very curious to see what happens in the municipal election, because I've actually received questions from people in Weaverville and Woodfin. Can I use express vote on election day? I said, yes, you can. That tool's there for anybody, and you can make the font bigger. I mean, there's a lot of utility in the express vote device. So, just FYI. Thanks,
Mr. Quinn,
Mr. Acito.
how does this compare to what you've been filling out every election night of the world?
Okay, this looks the same, and everything else looks different. I like it because this is much easier for me to follow than the old form. I want you to know that the work that I had done on this document was on election night was only on the last page. And this was the big deal for me, trying to get everything reconciled. And I really appreciate having the space here for election officials to describe the problem or the issue that they encountered, because what I was having to do a lot of times was have the person explain to me what happened. And what had happened occurred hours earlier. This is great, but I'd much prefer the perspective of Ms. Brain and Ms. Stein, because they're the ones who have actually been election officials doing this stuff. What do you think about this new and improved form?
It's very, very similar. It's slightly different, and it probably depends on, this page, I think in the past, page 5 and page 6 opened out, so you can see both pages at the same time, at least
Hmm.
in the book that I saw,
Mhm.
which gives you the look at what occurred during the day. That does not always help if you haven't kept up during the day. So this is a good rundown of exactly what needs to be done.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is we need to make sure that our judges understand that they need to create instant reports when things happen and not at the end of the day.
And, yeah, that can be emphasized in
Because
training.
when you get to the end of the day and you start saying, what happened, somebody says, well, this happened, and you weren't there. You
Right,
didn't
right.
you didn't see what happened. You're having to put it back together at the end.
Yeah, let's not leave that. Just a second. I know you want to go through the rest of this, but this is this is going to break us. We're not careful. So if we've got a space for an explanation
Right.
for if the numbers are the same, and then it says an incident report may accompany this. You all understand better than I do, as a practical matter, what that's like. You got somebody telling you, giving you a narrative of it, and then there was a written report. The more accounts there are of this, the more chances there are for inconsistencies that put the whole thing in a bad light. So I'm wondering if maybe is there a reason to have this narrative on the election night form in addition to the incident report that was created contemporaneously with the incident? Does that create room for problems, or is that resolving problems? What do you think about that?
I think the more documentation, the better. And the idea behind the incident report, if I'm understanding Ms. Brain correctly, is you document the incident as soon as it happens, rather than waiting, rather than saying, I'm too busy to do that right now. Because if you wait, you run the risk of not being able to completely describe the incident.
Well, should it bother me that you get a second bite at the apple here of describing it? They may introduce some new, or is that good?
I like this because it's going to be a summary of whatever during
Well,
the
I
day.
can
There
give
might
you-
be multiple incidents.
I can give you, for example, she
Please.
was saying that a ballot got torn up. If that's not documented someplace, then you have to get everybody together and find out what happened to the ballot. The one that happened to us is we were trying to get the ATV numbers, and we totally forgot about the express vote because we don't use it that often.
Mhm.
And so there was an express vote in there, and so we're a ballot off, and it's like, oh, we didn't look at that little packet and see that one was gone.
Mhm.
So that would be one you'd put here. Yeah, we didn't see that one.
In other words,
We found it was
after the incident report.
Yeah. Because see, we wouldn't have an incident report
Right.
because we just simply used an express vote ballot. That wasn't an incident.
It wasn't until the end of the day.
Didn't happen until we
Okay,
started
I'm
trying.
satisfied with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another example is, and it doesn't happen very often, but there have been instances where we assume that a voter's walked out with a ballot, which should never happen, but you can't have eyes and ears on every single thing. It is possible that a voter takes their ballot with them. In that case, you're never going to balance, but you're not going to know that until you come to do this ballot reconciliation, so there won't be an incident report.
Right.
So you just write there, we're short a ballot, nobody can explain this, we've counted and recounted.
Didn't that happen in the
Yeah, it
primary
happened
election?
last year.
Yeah, we never did figure it
We
out.
actually had one at my precinct. We knew that he walked out with it, but we couldn't catch him.
Right.
So, somebody said he walked out, he was gone by the time we got there. So we could make an instant report on that one, but at the end of the night, it's gone, it's gone.
And my experience is most of these balance just fine. Out of 80 precincts, 60 of them are going to be no problem at all. Another 15 are going to be, well, we got to ask a couple of questions, and 5 are going to be a pain in the neck. And it's it's those last 5 that slow everything down. And so that's why I'm glad that we will have, more heads working on this thing. It'll just go faster for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, so I feel like you all got there, but the idea is that the incident reports are, and it's anyone in the precinct can do those incident reports. And then this is the chief judge and the judges at the end of the day trying to put that picture together and explaining anything that's off or just that they want to tell the board. So that's kind of the difference between those two.
And I-
Joe, would help if simply to say, yes, there is an incident report, and here's what else you need to know. Just so that we've acknowledged the fact that in here, I mean, that's part of the inventory, right?
Does this version require more signatures than the previous version?
No.
Wow.
No, it's the same.
Okay, one of the things that is really great is when all those signatures are actually applied. And that you'll see on election night, some of them are missing, and that can be
And they did come back. Last election, we did call people.
good. Yeah, that's,
Showed them that
And you've
signatures
warned
were
them of
missing.
this.
Yes, it says here,
Which is
check
wonderful.
these, you will be required to come back to sign if it's not complete. And so we did call people and give them the accounting journal and say, these are the numbers that were reported. Is this consistent with your memory? Because this was only 1 or 2 days later, and we got signatures. So at the bottom, for those of you that don't have a copy in front of you, the chief judge, the Republican Party judge, the Democratic Party judge all have to sign this form, and it says, I have verified the numbers on this audit. So we'll start off with line 1, filling out line 1. This is your results tape, and this is where you would get, we're doing that ballot reconciliation. So line 1 here is telling you the total number of standard ballots and the total number of express vote cards.
30.
So here's your results tape, and it tells you how many standard ballots were processed on this machine and how many express vote cards were processed on this machine. And then this is your provisional bag. If you're a judge, you're going to count how many provisionals you've got, and you can assume that they were all standard ballots. It's very unusual to do an express one. So
This used to be 30. Didn't express vote
it used to be,
30?
yeah. Now it's 25.
I'm going.
So here's your provisional ballots, and this is how many provisional ballots. They're all standard ballots inside these provisional envelopes. And there are no express votes. This is your spoiled ballot bag. If you want to take a look through that and see what you've got in there.
We used to have to keep it just judged together because he was just.
Looks like 2.
Okay.
So 1 express.
It's your spoiled ballot bag.
Looking at the tasks here, so I like this. There are some things that are, is this in direct order to what you would want us doing? So in other words, if I'm racing out of the polls and I can't get to this number, that's not as important as these things. Could there be something that says in
The
this
priority
priority?
in this audit. Yeah, that's a good idea. So your challenged ballots are 0 and 0, which is what we would expect.
Hey, Sally,
Yes.
can we have the benefit of your?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I was just saying to Ms. Ray that in the emergency, in the case of emergency piece, that under the tasks, that perhaps if we added in priority, because if you can't get to call election services down there, but you can do those other things on top. I mean, do they want us to do it in this priority? And should it be that way? So if I'm the chief judge, I'm going, we got an emergency, and I'm needing to know what I do first, second, third, fourth.
Makes sense.
That makes sense, yeah.
What did she say?
I'll have to give you the other numbers. There are no challenged ballots. So
Zero.
now all you need to do is to add up those lines, and that will tell you the total used ballots.
There's one challenged ballot?
No challenge.
No.
No challenge. 0, 0.
Problem sucks. I'm a lawyer, not an accountant.
And it would take far too long to count unused ballots, so I will just give you the unused ballot number. So the standard ballots, 175, and express vote, 16. And so if you add used ballots and unused ballots, to total that into line 7. That.
210.
Well, I just did that, but I believe Karen.
Okay, 210 and 25. Yeah. Okay, 210 and 25. And that was the number that the chief judge received. So this would have been an absolutely perfect completed ballot reconciliation, which, as Chairman Quinn said, doesn't always happen.
And
But
but most of them do. Most of them do reconcile. No problem. And if there's one or two off, they've got a good explanation.
Do we have time for just an anecdote?
Please. Ms. Stein, Ms. Brain have a lot of hands-on experience with this, and we all benefit from that. So please share.
I just wanted to share my personal experience with Ms. Ray the night of the accounting, because I had put the wrong things in the wrong bins. And so when I got there and they were looking in the bin that was supposed to have the computers, the laptops in them, they weren't there. And I saw some real horror from this woman's face when she thought those laptops were still at the precinct. So she is a human being, and she does run a tight ship, which I really appreciate. The other thing is, I told Mr. Aceto that this was when I decided that I wouldn't mind being on the Board of Elections when I was served as a chief judge, because the systems of checks and balances was so impressive to me about how we manage our election process in this county. And when I talk to others in other counties, this is not something we should take for granted. So that's all.
Thank you. I love that anecdote.
But the very last thing then would be that box on the bottom right. That's where a member of the board then will sign to say that they have reviewed this. And it won't only be Chairman Quinn.
No, I think all of my colleagues have mastered this better than I. Ms. Ray, thank you very much. Colleagues, do you have any questions about the accounting journal? Any comments? Thank you. This is, I think it's going to be our initials, right?
I do have
You
one question.
guys use CQI. In my workplace, it was continuous.
Yeah, Mr.
continued
Quinn,
process.
if we are looking at this
Yes, sir.
journal as board members, where else should we be looking besides that reconciliation page at the back? I mean, is there more to this that we should make ourselves aware of, just anecdotally or otherwise?
I thought that the presentation was pretty thorough. What we want to see is a completed journal. We want the stickers, we want the numbers, we want the signatures, we want all the blanks filled in. And I am confident that that is going to be stressed in training.
So,
Director Duncan.
When you were doing this, when you were the only one
Uh-huh.
reviewing these, just briefly, what was your experience? Were you having to come back and get blanks filled in and do all that? Is that
Sure, yeah,
that's
there were
what's
blanks
what-
that had to
that's
be
what-
filled
That's
in.
what took your time.
What took time was trying to get answers when things didn't all add up. And the struggle that people have is after a 14 or 15-hour day, they are worn to a frazzle. And if there's something that happened early in the day, there's a decent chance that the memory is not going to be as crystal clear as we'd like. And I can remember one precinct in particular where there was just no way in thunder this thing was going to get reconciled on election night. And it required staff work in the following days to get it all done.
So with that in mind, I have one thought, which is I picture there possibly being some confusion if there's instead of one person who the election workers, poll workers will return to if there's a question. Where's Jake? Oh, there he is. Jake had the question. Go see Jake. If four of us are doing it, then there needs to be some way so that the poll workers know which person, which board member is.
Okay, the way this is the last thing. This is the last step in the process on election night. Everybody's brought in all their stuff. They've made sure that it's gotten into the right hands. It's being accounted for. But the very last thing that needs to be done before that chief judge can leave is we got to sign this thing. And in order for us to feel comfortable signing it, we want to make sure that it's completed and that if there are discrepancies, there's explanations on them here.
Is that
And
chief
so-
judge standing in front of you
Yes.
when you do that?
Yes. In fact, it's just like in here. There's all these chairs, and there are all of these wonderful people losing patience because they want to hear 57.1, and 57, whoever that chief judge is from 57.1 will come up and we'll go over this. And sometimes it's going to take 30 seconds to go over this because it's going to be completed. It's going to reconcile. It's going to foot. Great. Hey, thanks a lot. We'll see you next election. And then, hey, precinct 58.1, they come up and half of them are blank, and that one just takes time. You've got the person there, and that's the person who was on site all day. But for one reason or another, they couldn't get this either fully completed or completed accurately. And as I mentioned, last election, there were one or two precincts where it just we weren't going to get the answers on election night. There was no way we're going to get them.
So what I'm hearing is from the point of view of the poll worker, instead of one person sitting on the other side of that table, there's going to be four.
Okay, even better, Mr. Schultz will be here. Ladies and gentlemen, there will be 5 checkout lines
Yeah.
at the election night Ingalls.
Yeah.
Previously, there had been one, and I'll tell you, those people who were 77th, 78th, 79th, 80th in line, whew, it was almost the day after Election Day by the time
Not
we were
enough
done.
coffee, not enough Cokes, not enough candy to get us through those
Right,
times.
right.
So, yeah, it's tough. So this will be much better.
So this will, 5 checkout lines instead of 1. I think that our judges are going to appreciate the speed with which we are able to send them home.
I predict it's going to be easier to get judges because they will get out of there quicker,
Even better.
and they'll
Thank you.
feel like it's quicker.
I love that idea. The more the merrier when it comes to election officials. Oh, please.
I know that in the past also Chairman Quinn's been struggling calling out numbers. And I'm not going to use 67.1 because that chief judge is in the room today.
Hey, John.
But he'll be calling 42.1, 42.1, and nobody is answering. They're either having a cup of coffee, they're talking.
Oh,
they
right,
just
right,
haven't
right, right,
remembered
right,
that
right.
They are 42.1 because they think their name is, John Smith. So
Right.
now you will be able to see the name of the chief judge on page 2.
Perfect.
So if you don't get a response to 42.1, then you can stand there and go, pen black. So you
Good.
might get a better response.
Very good. Thank you. This staff just makes things better all the time. A little bit here, a little bit there, but it is continuous.
I will say one thing about to staff, and that is, if you actually look at the instructions in your green book and actually follow them step by step, it'll tell you exactly how to close the poll. Exactly how to do it. And when you're tired, sometimes you just kind of look over things, but it's all there. Staff has it all there.
Thank you. It's all there. It's all spelled out. It's all been trained.
Color-coded and
Director Duncan, did you have something to add?
I did. I just kind of wanted to highlight what we're actually doing here. So the accounting journal helps the poll workers reconcile at the end of the night. So that's one pass at auditing and reconciling. Then the board gets it that night, and it gets another pass. It also serves the function of, did all the precincts come in? We have documentation that every single one came in that night. Then it gets a third pass by staff. So there's there's so many of our processes that if we're talking in a board meeting about one step, you might think, oh gosh, this accounting journal is the only way that we audit the election, and it's not. It's just one of many layers of how we do it. And this is just for election day.
Right.
We have early voting and absentee, so.
And
yeah.
that early voting reconciliation occurs how frequently?
Daily.
Every single day. Because if you don't catch that problem when it happens, it snowballs into a disaster, potentially. Thank you. Colleagues, did you have any questions, comments? Thank you, everybody.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, please.
Judy Williamson, this is very impressive, and you all are amazing, but you're one of 100 counties. These resolutions and these procedures, they seem like they're unique and specific to Buncombe. Is this being replicated 100 times around the state?
That's a good question. I don't know. I have to confess that since joining this board, I've become about as provincial as can be. And I just care about Buncombe County, and Buncombe County following 100% of the state's directions on this. But that's a good question. I do correspond with members of other boards, and it's become clear to me that the organization here is very solid compared to some of the other boards in the state. But I don't know about their documentation on their policies and procedures.
Well, it's very important to me as a voter to know, not just have confidence, which my confidence level's gone way up in the last couple of weeks, but thank you. But I want to have this level of confidence in the state as well, and I don't know if you all are a model or
Oh, yeah.
all of these resolutions, once they're approved, be implemented in every county.
So each county being of a different size and the board wishing to have different delegations and different responsibilities, our county actually has a lot of absentee ballots, and most counties that are our size delegate a lot more responsibility to the staff for the absentees. Like they'll do a spot check, but our board wants to see every single ballot, and so it just kind of depends on each county what the board wants. And I think that it takes a lot of work, a lot of time here, but it's also a very transparent process. I mean, both processes are transparent, but
and we are, I think, seen as a leader. In the state meeting that we attended this summer, Corinne was doing some of the presentations for the state. So definitely, they have the option to look at what we're doing.
And
Yeah, and we also share. You know, we have a list that has all the directors on it. We'll put questions out there, and we share job descriptions. We share, procedures, or something new comes, and we have a situation we've never had before. We put it out there. You know, what are you all doing? So. We talk to each other a lot and try to be really supportive of each other. But
Mr.
each
Quinn, if
county is
you'll
very different.
indulge me, you describe yourself as provincial, but I don't think that's quite the case. I think that Jake has been very active, and he does communicate with the state board. He communicates with the other county boards. He raises our visibility as well as certainly as Kareem does.
Thank you.
But the chair has been very much in front of this, and I don't know if there's a formal organization of chairs. I was thinking there was, and that you were involved with it, but maybe not.
There's actually an organization of county board members. For the life of me, I'm not sure what the group does. I went to a meeting once back in 2018, and there just wasn't much happening, and so I didn't go to any more. But, you know, that's worth exploring at the next statewide. Before the next statewide, let me talk to Trina and just find out what goes on. Trina being our former director here. And Mr. Aceto, I didn't know you were studying for the exam.
Oh my, yes.
Good luck.
Thank you. It really is a great exercise.
It is. I mean, you learn how to look up stuff in 163 in the administrative code. I enjoyed it, but I just figured the exam was just legal research. You needed to find the answer to the question. It's in there. Go get it. So good luck to you, sir. I'm sure you'll pass with flying colors.
Eventually, yes.
Eventually.
It's open book.
All right. Hey, thank you so much for waiting so patiently through this meeting. Did anyone have any questions or comments before we conclude this evening's session? No? Okay. No more business come before the board. This meeting is adjourned at 7:40. That's a long one. Thanks, everybody, for sticking it out. Steve, you're going to get one of these nifty Lucite's, my man.
I want one, and I'm going to put it right there like you.
That's the prize. That's what you